Hi Eddie, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Keith.
How are you and the lads feeling after the trip? I guess, given the result, they probably could have flown back themselves. How are the energy levels?
Yeah, okay. I think it was a late night for us. I think roughly around 4 a.m. Return. Actually, maybe a bit later than that. So yeah, sleep was an issue, but I think hopefully a good night's rest for them last night, and got another sleep to go. So fingers crossed, by the time the game kicks off, we'll be okay.
What a week it's been for yourself and the players. 3 away wins in a row. When obviously away wins have been a bit of a problem throughout the season. What has that done for the confidence and moving forward into the future games?
Yeah, hopefully a lot of positives to come out of the last few games, as you say. 3 away wins, which is something that it's a great return. 3 different games, 3 tough games in their own right. I think the performances have been really good. I think the individual performances of the players has been a lot stronger, and then collectively we've looked a really good team. So I've been very, very happy with how the team's functioned, how it's played, and yeah, we want to continue that good feeling.
You mentioned the individual performances there. Obviously, Anthony Gordon during the week stole the show with his 4 goals. I know you said previously that he prefers playing out on the left, but he's been really good, isn't he, at centre forward over the last few games. Is there a chance there that he could potentially do that for a more prolonged period, given he looked like he enjoyed his goals the other night and what centre forward brings?
Yeah, I think if he's playing wide, he prefers the left side to the right. I think every player has a preference on sides and positions, and you sort of listen to that because you want the player to play ideally where he's most comfortable. But I think given another preference, he'd probably prefer to play down the middle and lead the line, because I think that's what most players naturally would want to do, because you've got a lot more freedom in terms of your movement and where you can run. I think Ant's got some really good qualities in that position, none more so than his pressing intensity, but also his tactical understanding of when to do it, how to do it. I think it's at the very highest level. I think you could see the other day a couple of our goals came from his regains, and that's not by luck, that's by his really good judgment and where he puts himself. And then for the first goal that he scores, it's a brilliant piece of centre-forward play. Comes in short, spins, and it's a ruthless finish. So I was delighted with this performance.
Can I just ask you one more on Anthony? I mean, 10 goals in the Champions League, it's pretty incredible, right up there amongst some of the top strikers in Europe. How good is it to see that from him this season?
That's a great thing for him. I'm really pleased because he's found goals difficult to come by in the Premier League, and sometimes these things happen and you can't quite work out why in one competition. A bit like our away form, really. It's much debated and talked about, and sometimes it's a strange thing that you can't really put a finger on why, and that would be the case for Ant. I'm sure he'll be wanting more goals in other competitions, but the Champions League is probably the one the players look to, and it inspires them the most, and it's certainly got the best out of him, and long may that continue.
Thank you. Andy?
Morning, Eddie. Just in the last 3 games, we've seen Kieran Trippier and Bruno push you towards the supporters. Sandro Tonali came and celebrated with you at Villa Park. I just want to know from you, how much does that support, both on and off the field, mean to you in the last few weeks, given it's been quite a difficult period?
Yeah, it's not something necessarily that I'm asking for, I have to say. I'm not prepping the players on that. I think it's very spontaneous. I think for me, it's always about the players, and I'm there to support them. So I take those relationships with my players, though, very seriously. I think fundamentally, for the players to perform at their best level, the relationship has to be built on trust and respect. And then hopefully we work as a partnership to bring out the very, very best in what their game has to give the team. And those players that you mentioned, I've got a great relationship with, and I want to improve my relationships with all my players at all times. And I think the only way I can do that is by working for them, and that's by helping their game. Of course, investing in the person and getting to know them. But I think I have a big responsibility to help them and be there for them in good times and bad times, and I try to be really consistent with that.
Lost count of the number of games Newcastle have played already this season. I've lost count definitely of the number of times Newcastle have played Manchester City, with more games to come. From the long trip home, admittedly in the early hours, and from the amount of times you've played them this season, I think you've been asked this before, so I'm going to refresh it. Have you learnt anything new about Manchester City that you didn't already know?
Genuinely, I think we learned something. Not so much about them, but more about ourselves and our game going forward every time we play them. I think they have been the benchmark for a number of years in the Premier League in terms of teams that play at the very highest level consistently. So yeah, with each painful defeat that we've suffered, especially at the Etihad, I think you grow from it, and that's what we try to do. So then when we play other teams, we've tried to evolve and improve. A big mark to their consistency levels, season upon season. I think they've been very, very good, led by an outstanding manager. They continue to be the benchmark, in my opinion. I think for us, every time we've played there, we've made too many mistakes. Not massive ones. I don't think you have to make massive ones there to lose the game. But big enough mistakes to cost us the game. And I think we've been in the games. I think they're always competitive, but they've been too good for us on a number of occasions. And that's the jumping gap we've got to try and bridge this weekend.
Just finally, on the team news, how's the squad looking, I suppose, after coming back from Azerbaijan in midweek? And have you any updates on Bruno and Tino Livramento?
No massive updates on Bruno. He's in Brazil, and judging by a couple of the pictures that I see, which was great to see. It's typical Bruno. Seeing and watching the game in the chamber did make me laugh, because it's just his passion and his love for the team shining through, and we wish him well from afar. Tino's making good progress, but still I don't think we're going to shave too much time off of the early March set for him. Hopefully good news or better news on Sven Botman, where he could be in and around this game. And Louis Miley's still a little bit to go, I think.
Thank you. Simon?
Eddie, the last week, Birmingham, Baku and on to Manchester, it was probably the most brutal week of a brutal month schedule. How can everyone cope with that, with all the travel, with all the mental gymnastics you've got to do?
I think you have to. I don't think there's a choice there. So I think in some respects that necessity to recover, be at your best again, especially a sobering thought when you're playing Manchester City. I think that in itself focuses the mind to go, well, I can't look for excuses. I can't look for fatigue or any other excuse. We have to turn up and be the best version of ourselves and give everything we can to win another game. So I think the players know they have to be ready. Any dip, and it will cost us.
The record at the Etihad is the record at the Etihad, but you beat them in the reverse fixture in the Premier League at St James's Park. I mean, how much does it give everyone knowing that this season's Manchester City is beatable?
I think every team we play is beatable. I think, that game gives us hope and gives us the evidence, I think, in our own brains that if we get everything right, we can win the game. Now, that's a big statement because we have to do everything right, and that means tactically, physically, right across the board. I could go on and on about what we have to do well to win the game. But the evidence is there. We've done it before, and I think that serves as a really good notice for us that if we turn up, we can do it.
The way you've played in the last few games has by necessity been slightly different. Do you think that presents an interesting tactical wrinkle for the opposition as well?
I don't know if it's been that different personally. I just think the players have played at a really, really high level, and it's great to see individuals return to their best form. I think when we have that, I think we've got some very, very good players that can cause anybody problems. So I think that's the expectation again.
Thanks, Simon. Go to Damien, Jordan and Dom, please.
Morning, Eddie. Those of us who are old enough will remember Alan Shearer brushing aside a young player wanting to take a penalty when he'd already scored 4. Amid the minor fuss over the penalty the other night, do you want Anthony, in form, scoring goals, to have that selfish streak to his game, in inverted commas?
Yeah, I think there's really big positives to take from that incident. I mean, all moments like that get blown out of all proportion. A very minor issue. In fact, I think it was a few things to comment on it. It's great from Anthony that he's sort of got that strong enough resolve that he wants to score in every moment, and you'd want that from any player. So I've got no issue with him. I've got no issue with Kieran also trying to think of the team and trying to lead in his way and be the inspiring leader that he is in every moment. So actually that was a real positive on all sides. the good thing is we scored the penalty. So that in itself is another positive, and I think it showed that all the players care and we want to do well.
Thank you. Jordan?
Will Johan Wissel be available tomorrow?
No, I don't think he will be, but I don't think he'll be too far off maybe the Karabakh game.
Just what is his injury and how did it occur?
Yeah, it was in training, a nasty little knock, but I think he'll be fine.
Thank you. Dom?
Just on the back of that, Lewis Smiley was described as a dead leg. He's now been out for almost a month. Just what exactly is the issue with him?
Again, without going into too much medical stuff, which is beyond me, it was a dead leg, so that was factually correct, but I think it disturbed a bit of the muscle. So, again, I don't think he's too far away. Nothing more than a week, couple of weeks maximum. But I think we've been told that we've got to be careful with it.
Thank you. We'll go to Lee, Chris and Gary, please.
Eddie's just done Nick. He's obviously been playing in midfield. You gave away a little bit about that the other day. How happy is he here? He seems to be really fitting in with his teammates, laughing and joking, enjoying his football. Can you just give us an insight what he's like behind the scenes?
Yeah, he seems really, really happy. He seems what you see is what you get. I think with Nick, I think he's always laughing. He's been very good in the dressing room, actually. He's built a really close friendship with Malik, which is great to see him build that strong relationship with one of his teammates, but also I think he's well liked by the group. I think that's a really big thing for any player. I think that the guys really respect and like his personality and the fact that he's very much a team player, and he's a likeable guy. He's always, as I say, got good humour, doesn't take himself too seriously. He's one of the lads. So when I see reports or hear reports that he's not happy, that's not the player that I'm seeing. So he's looked really good on the pitch, I have to say. In the last few games, I've been really, really happy with him. He's performing at a really high level. So I don't see any issues.
Thank you. Chris?
On Nick shifting into that position sort of as a left side number 8, how has that sort of come about? Because I know you've talked previously about how little training time you have. Was that something you'd foreseen a while ago, or is that just a recent development, and how has he sort of really taken to that so quickly?
Yeah, we've done a lot of work with him in that position away from sort of the game day, as much as we can with the limited training time that we have. So yes, we're not training. When I say we're not training to the intense levels, of course, that we would one game a week, but we are turning up as we will today, and we will train. But then it's what you do in that time that's the really important thing. Nick's attitude to his work's been excellent, so we've asked him to play a slightly different role, albeit it's not a million miles from how we were playing with him as the number 9. He was coming low, he was coming deep. It's just he's slightly to one side. So I don't see a big, massive issue here. He's a player that plays better in between the lines than stretching the line. I think that's obvious. It's more the defensive work that he has to then grasp and what we ask of him off the ball. And that's where I have to say, even as a number 9 leading the line, his off-the-ball performances were really, really good. Tactically, he's a very, very intelligent player. He's obviously been well educated in his former clubs, so he took to it really quickly, and full compliment to him for doing that.
And just on that, physically, the sort of demands of that for him, how different is it from? I know you said that he drops deep, but given the extra defensive work, how different is that from?
I don't think it's that different personally. Is there slightly more physical demand? Yes, but it's slight, and I think the thing with Nick, and we noticed this straight away from working with him, he's got really good endurance levels. So his ability to run and cover long distances is actually very, very high. So yeah, I think he can do it. Of course, there's things to learn and improve and develop within his game in that position. But I think he's a versatile player.
Okay, Gary, and then Scott, please.
Hi, Eddie. It was a really nice moment the other night. Jacob Murphy scoring his first Champions League goal. He's had such a rollercoaster career here at Newcastle, longest serving player now in the squad. Can you just explain how much he's improved since you've arrived, and what's the best thing that you like about Jacob?
Yeah, he's got many qualities, Jacob. I think he's an outstanding character. He's part of our leadership group now, which I think speaks volumes for how the other players see him. So he's not necessarily a sort of an outspoken confrontational speaker as a leader. He's a very likeable person. He's very positive. Again, another really good teammate. I think you can talk to Jacob about anything. If I was a teammate of his, and he would give me really good advice and try and steer me in the right direction. He's a really good role model for the younger players. I love how level he is. He's always thinking of the team, but he's also always thinking how he can improve himself. And I think that's why he's been so successful here, under me in particular, because he's developing his game all the time. He's trying to find new ways to improve his game against fullbacks, whether that's crossing, you name it. He's looking at his game and watching his game back and trying to evolve his game and take it forward. So I've got a lot of time for players that invest that time in their careers, and you see that every day. He's one of the last off the training pitch in terms of trying to hone his skills, and then you see him score a goal like he did, and yes, it took a slight deflection, but that will be Murph working on his shooting after training, both feet. Countless times he works the goalkeepers, and I'm really, really pleased for him to get that moment, because that's a special thing, your first Champions League goal. And I'm sure different stages in his career he wouldn't have known that he would get to this point, but he fully deserves it.
Thanks, Gary. Scott, to finish, please.
Hi, Eddie. I apologise, it's going to be another one about Nick. I'll take your point when you say that a lot of what he's been doing hasn't necessarily been that different in the games we've seen so far. It feels like maybe on Saturday, if he was to play there against City, it might be a little bit different in that it's potentially a game where you're not going to have as much of the ball. There might be times when you're in a low block, a kind of rigid defensive shape. Is he ready to do that? Do you think he's capable of doing the job he's doing in that kind of game where you're not on the front foot necessarily as much as you have been?
It's a great question. We will see. But I'd say from what I've seen in training and the way that he's taken to the work that we've done with him, I'd say yes. Well, of course, doing that in one environment is different to doing it on match day with the pressure and the game and everything that entails. But I wouldn't play him there if I didn't think he could do it.